Glad you could make it back, family. I have a great story to tell you today. Most folks think the Montgomery Bus Boycott started with a seat. They're wrong. It started at 2 o'clock in the morning, in a basement, with ink on somebody's hands and fear in their chest. While the city slept, a woman named Joanne Robinson was cranking a mimeograph machine like her life depended on it, because it did. 35,000 flyers, printed in secret, before sunrise. And while those pages were stacking up, Rosa Parks was sitting in a cold jail cell. No cameras, no speeches, just the sound of footsteps outside those bars. This wasn't an accident. This was a rematch. Let me tell you something they don't put in the textbooks. Rosa Parks had met that bus driver before, 12 years earlier, 1943. It was raining hard. Rosa paid her fare at the front like she was told to do. The driver, James Blake, snapped at her to get off and re-entered through the back. She tried to explain. He reached for his pistol. She stepped off the bus, and before she could grab the back door handle, he slammed the gears and pulled off laughing, leaving her standing right there in the mud. Isn't that something? Now fast forward. December 1st, 1955. Same man, same eyes, same smirk. And that's the thing about bullies. They never remember you. They've tormented too many people for too long. You're just another Negro, another body that I have the power to move. But Rosa remembered him. And this time, there was no way to pretend this was an accident. When Blake moved that colored sign and demanded the row, 3 people stood up. Rosa slid towards the window. When he asked if she was going to stand, she said no, calm, clean, and final. He told her he'd have her arrested. And Rosa Parks said words that shook an economy. You may do that. Now here's the part they seem to leave out. Rosa wasn't the first. 9 months earlier, a 15-year-old girl named Claudette Colvin refused to move. She was smart. She knew her rights. She'd been learning them from Rosa, her mentor at the NAACP Youth Council. Her friends sat frozen, watching the police drag Claudette down that bus aisle, screaming about the Constitution, not knowing if they'd ever see her again. At the jail, grown white officers joked about her body. Would you believe they tried to guess her bra size? She started to pray right then, praying to keep from being hurt. She was terrified. Now, when the movement leaders looked at her case, they didn't see courage. They saw risk. She was too young, too dark, unwed, pregnant. They knew what would come for her and her family if she became the face of this citywide rebellion. Would she have survived what Rosa was about to endure? Rosa had age, training, from Septima Clark's friendship schools, years inside the NAACP. She knew the system, and the system knew her. So Claudette carried the fire, and Rosa carried the war. While Rosa sat in that cell, the men were still talking. But the women? The women of the Women's Political Council were moving. Joanne Robinson didn't wait for permission. She grabbed 2 students, stole paper from Alabama State University, and ran that mimeograph machine all night. Every turn of that handle risked her job, her pension, her life. By morning, Montgomery was covered in paper. The White Citizens Council woke up expecting the help. Nobody came. After a while, they thought the women would cave first. Cold, heat. But how do you fire the women who clean your houses? Who watches your children? Who cooks your meals? Some of the men and women only walked a few miles or caught a ride. But what about those ladies who walked 10, 12, 14 miles, then worked all day, then walked home and didn't blink? 30 to 40,000 black riders, almost 70% of the bus system vanished overnight. The city lost around $5,000 in the first 2 days. It's probably 10 times or more than that in today's money. Let that sit with you. By year's end, revenue had dropped nearly 70%. This wasn't protest. This was economic warfare. The city struck back. Police hunted carpools, ticketed drivers for blinking wrong, jailed men for missing turn signals. Homes were bombed. Phones rang all night with death threats. And still, the walkers kept walking. The city blinked first, but victory has consequences. Rosa lost her job at Montgomery Fair. Raymond was pushed out of his work. And when the buses finally integrated, the danger didn't stop. It followed them. That Supreme Court ruling didn't calm Montgomery. It exposed it. The White Citizens Council packed Garrett Coliseum, passed out mimeographed hate, a rewrite of the Declaration of Independence. Then they squeezed. Jobs gone, apartments gone, credit cut. When the law finally changed, the bullets came out. Snipers fired into integrated buses. Churches were bombed. And that's when Raymond said, "We want a seat on a bus we can't afford to ride. No one will hire you. No one will hire me. Even our own people are scared to stand near us now." In 1957, Rosa and her husband, Parks, as she called him, left Montgomery. Detroit was supposed to be freedom. You see, her brother Sylvester lived up there. He'd been talking to her, saying maybe things would be different. His family had 13 children. 13. And Rosa loved every one of them like they were hers. She didn't have children of her own, but she had 13 reasons not to give up. So they went north. Not chasing comfort, chasing family. Detroit was supposed to be freedom. No signs, no colored sections. But the North had its own weapons. Red lines, glass ceilings, cold indifference. Rosa, world famous, sold for $5 a day. The ulcers followed her north. Raymond couldn't find steady work. Some nights they skipped meals so her mother could eat. The struggle didn't end. It just changed zip codes. By 1964, Rosa was done being a symbol, but she wanted to be useful. She found a young lawyer named John Conyers, sharp and losing badly. She sat across from him and told him the truth. You don't need flyers. You need a pulpit. Conyers said King wouldn't endorse a local race. Rosa picked up the phone. This wasn't a favor call. It was a debt call. When Dr. King heard her voice, he listened. She reminded him what it cost to get here. King came to Detroit, the only political endorsement of his life. Conyers won by 108 votes. Rosa went back to work, quietly, helping people survive eviction, discrimination, police abuse. Not sitting down, working. By the 70s, Rosa Parks was famous everywhere, except at the bank. She traveled constantly, universities, galas, churches, dragging her own suitcase, budget hotels, spare bedrooms. The honorariums paid the bills, the ulcers burned. Did you know they never owned a home? You would figure the mother of the movement would own a home or given one. They were always one check away from disaster. That suitcase followed her everywhere, the same one she fled Montgomery with. 1994, 81 years old. Rosa thought she heard a door being kicked in. A young man standing right there in her kitchen. He didn't know who she was. He didn't care. He didn't believe she was poor, so he punished her for it. He stole $53 and punched her in the face. When the police wrote the report, they didn't log a revolution. They logged $13 in her pocket. She changed the world's direction, but she couldn't change the heart of that boy in her kitchen. The nation was outraged. But it wasn't the government that saved her. It was quiet goodness. A man named Mike Ilitch, the founder of Little Caesars, paid her rent, for over a decade. He helped her get into a riverfront apartments with security downstairs to keep her safe. No press, no speeches, just safety. For the first time in her life, Rosa slept without listening. The suitcase stayed closed. It started with a grandfather guarding a porch. Claudette was the fire. Joanne was the brain. Rosa was the anchor. They walked 14 miles so we wouldn't have to move an inch. They faced bombs, hunger, blacklists, and didn't blink. Rosa lived in the shadow of monuments built in her name. A working-class hero, no pension, only purpose. She was carried into the Capitol Rotunda in 2005, the first woman to lie in honor there. 30,000 people waited in the rain. Victory wasn't a destination, it was refusal. A city bus pulls up. A young girl steps on. She takes the first open seat. In the window's reflection, Rosa Parks smiles back.
Rosa Parks believed young people carried the future. She founded the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development to teach leadership, civil responsibility, and living history. Her work continues through youth education and the Pathways to Freedom programs. For more information, visit rosaparks.org.